Okay, I think we can start. Welcome to this session on Streaming Forum 2013, which is about, as you can see here on the slides, on dynamic adaptive streaming over HTTP and high-efficiency video coding, Dash and HEVC, with the subtitle here, New Standards Enabling Ultra-High Quality Video Services. I have just a couple of slides to give you an introduction, to introduce the panel members, and then I have confronted them with a couple of questions which we will discuss here among the panel members and of course among you. So you're also welcome to come up with some questions to the members here. Dash, I think, is known in this community. It's an international standard for over-the-top streaming. It basically defines formats for the manifest and the segments. So manifest is also referred to as media presentation description, MPD, and the segments are defined for both MPEG-to transport stream and all kind of ISO-based media file formats like MP4, what you have seen. It's available now for quite some time. Actually, it has been approved by MPEG in November 2011 and then published on the ISO website in April 2012. Currently, people, including those who are sitting here, working on corrigenda and amendments, basically including events, which will be approved in July, so next month, in the next MPEG meeting, which will be also in Europe, in Vienna, and then which could be seen as the second edition of the Dash standard. And in the meanwhile, also the Dash Industry Forum has been established to promote the standard, to provide interoperability guidelines that go beyond what is actually specified in the standard. And on the other hand, there is HEVC, or some people will refer to it as H.265, as a next generation video codec. In May 2013, so just 1 month ago, the FDIS, so that's the internal draft of the international standard, has been approved by MPEG, and the international standard, as you can buy it then on the ISO store, will be published soon. They are also working on amendments on range extensions. Multi-view is ongoing, and the FDs for these amendments are planned early next year. They claim to have a 50% performance gain compared to the predecessor, AVC or H.264, and as Dash specifies formats for the segments and doesn't talk that much about the coding format, I mean, HEVC is Dash ready per definition. Today we have here a couple of panelists working on these standards, trying to also deploy the standards. I am Christian Timmerer. I just started recently with a company in Austria. And then from your right to the left, we have Thomas Stockhammer. He is a consultant for technical standards in Qualcomm, USA, and he's also the main editor of the Dash standard. So he basically is mainly responsible for what finally is written into the standard, so he should know the standard by heart. Then we have from the transport point of view, Ali Beng from Cisco. So he in the end needs to transport the bits Thomas is standardizing. You can see it like this. We have Thomas Schiel from Fraunhofer, HHI, and I guess most people know Fraunhofer, HHI. They are research institute contributing to MPEG standards, both video, audio, and system standards. We have from the network operator point of view, Gilles Tenu from Orange France, and he may say something about how they will use it within their network. And then, last but not least, Bram Tullemans from the EBU will provide us information from a broadcaster point of view. To somehow guide the discussion here, we have a couple of questions agreed among the panelists, saying like, okay, what means the Dash and HEVC for your company? What are the expectations? What are current limitations of the two standards if we put them together to create services or whatsoever? And then probably most important, okay, what is missing in the specification within MPEG and what should be solved even outside of MPEG. I think sometimes there is a kind of misunderstanding that the MPEG standards, they provide you a product that you can just deploy, but in fact, in many cases, MPEG standards are used in some other standards that enable then end-to-end services. But probably we can just start with you, Bram, at the beginning from a broadcaster, content provider, something point of view, and you may provide your views on any of these questions, and then we can start from there.
So let me start with the first one then. We try to improve the quality of experience or quality of service of our end users, the audience. We want to give them the best possible picture quality, and at the same time, of course, control the cost in doing so. And of course, HEVC, better quality, lower bit rate, is helping in that. Dash is an open standard. We really think it's necessary for us to have interoperability of services. So we should have one service which can run on different platforms. We see in Dash a potential future function in that, so as being an open standard instead of a proprietary one. And I think it's very important that we keep on improving this picture quality while reducing the bitrate at the same time. As you see now, in some markets like in Germany, data caps are reintroduced again. That will mean that people will have, the end user will have less capacity to use for video. So we will have to be very aggressive on getting the best video out at a lower bitrate.
Yeah, speaking about the capacity, so what are the views of a network operator on that, Gilles?
Well, first of all, I mean, Dash plus HEVC for us is a set of open standards which provide us confidence on the interworking of different equipments when implementing an end-to-end delivery chain, and also confidence on the interoperability when considering various devices. So for us, this combination is the ability to generalize the HD consumption to virtually any device. So the adaptation features is quite important for anticipating any bandwidth variation, but also in order to address various devices with heterogeneous decoding capabilities.
Yeah, speaking about heterogeneity of devices, I mean, that's something, a research topic for quite some time. And probably, Thomas, you have some views on that based on your experience working not only with industry partners, but also with academia. So what do you think, or how do you think Dash and HEVC could help here to address this problem?
Yeah, as I said before, so we have been deeply involved in the standardization process of HEVC, so we exactly know how this codec works and how good it is. There are some questions on your slide asking about limitations of this codec, and this is typical for a new codec, which has been just published by ITU as a specification H265 and by MPEG and HEVC, as you mentioned before, that there are typically no hardware available at the moment, right? So this is the thing. So in this phone there is no hardware decoder for this, but I guess it will come sooner or later. Yeah. So this is expectation for phones to have support in hardware. On the software side, you can do it today in software on such a phone, on other phones, as long as you have some up-to-date processor platform on it. So for sure, a hardware decoder will allow it to run a phone longer with that than a software decoder. But during the standardization process, it had been shown that there was a decoder running on a tablet computer for 11 hours or something like this. So this is really possible. With the heterogeneity of devices, I started with the phone, so there are iPad or tablet computers, also from other vendors, which see a really big usage these days. So I think there's a tremendous change in using entertainment service, video services. So you go from a typical sitting in front of a TV to enjoying your services via pet computers. I think this is normal today for everybody of us. And in this case, you want to stream data to devices which are typically connected, in the best case, via your wireless LAN connection in your home, but also over 3G networks, HSPA, LTE networks. And in that case, HEVC will guarantee or will bring benefits in terms of bitrate reduction, which is absolutely required. So this is what I know from my customers, that they are all interested in this bitrate reduction, which is claimed to be 50% and has been also proven to be 50% in order to offer such services. Yeah.
You mentioned hardware, and we have some guy here whose company is producing a lot of hardware to transport or to deliver data. So what is the meaning for you, Ali, of using Dash and HEVC? How does it help your company to solve the problems of your customers? Maybe you can comment on that.
So from a transport perspective, we really don't care about the codec inside the media segments. What is more important is that the HEVC, if it's going to provide some bitrate reduction, that's of course good for storage or the transmission costs and bandwidth expansion. So with reduced bitrate requirements, you can actually reach a larger number of customers in your network. While the storage costs and associated hardware costs have been dropping for some time, the amount of content offered over the internet and the amount of different representations, I would say, 3D, multi-view video, and Ultra HD at some near future time. So all those things actually, although we might be using HEVC or another more efficient encoding, the total amount of bits we are storing inside the network and transmitting from one point to another is actually increasing almost exponentially. So compared to 5 years ago, today we are carrying maybe 30 or 50 times more traffic of video from one point to another within a country. So that's a lot of new hardware and new transport links and dedicated routers, switches, and all that stuff. So HEVC, from that perspective, is a requirement for future services. That's a given. But from my perspective, Dash is more important because as it is an open standard, hopefully we will be able to have some hooks within the transport to actually do something intelligent inside the network to carry the media more efficiently. Today, we have different ABR formats that have been developed by different companies and vendors, but they are all controlled by a specific vendor, and they are not really open to further customization. So when it comes to network operators, and when they are using our equipment or somebody else's equipment, they are not actually able to do anything smart to carry those media segments more efficiently. So with Dash, hopefully we will have those hooks for the media segments in the manifest files and in the hardware actually that can actually see what's going on, and it can make more more smarter decisions about the transport. So that's why Dash is ultimately really important for better CDN and residential video delivery.
I mean, that's a very good transition about Dash as open standard and having the standards editor next to you. So maybe Thomas can continue on that and elaborate a little bit more on the importance of Dash and whether and how maybe HEVC can become a driver even for Dash.
Well, first of all, I would like to go back to my company, Qualcomm. So I'm not sure who knows Qualcomm. Probably a few people might not even know Qualcomm. So Qualcomm is like the world leader in 3G and next generation mobile technologies. We have core products in this area, and one of the core products is our Snapdragon processor, which is highly optimized to mobile platforms. very power efficient, a great technology which basically was developed specifically for mobile. What happened over the last couple of years, it was understood that TV sets have basically the same requirements which are for mobile, smartphone, tablets, and so on. So we have integrated the processor also into smart TV environments. So we have a broad platform which basically can be used to deliver high quality media. So Qualcomm is really highly present in this area. More than 50% of smartphones include Qualcomm technology. So if you have a smartphone, it's very likely that you have a deeply integrated technology there. So we integrate algorithms and technologies deeply into the platform. And that basically provides then an enabler to distribute services, qualities, and so on, to really have the penetration out there and to get reach. So we are interested in having standards because that allows us to integrate deeply, to optimize, to do optimizations for low power, for actually high performance, and so on and so on. So the standards are really important for us. So that's basically the side of the company. At the same time, we are working in establishing technologies and finding out what are the best technologies for delivering. What has been figured out is that adaptive bitrate streaming as itself is the technology that is used for streaming distribution. So I was yesterday at a mobile operator event, and basically what is clear that despite a lot of technologies still not distributed with ABR, you see a lot of progressive downloads still and so on, it's really clear that ABR is going to be the technology. And now I'm not pushing and saying Dash is the solution, that's not the case, it's just that ABR is the technology. And today we have a fragmentation formats. So that basically causes some issues, but it's also an obvious aspect that this has happened over the years, that this proprietary technology had been introduced, they used and have shown to work well. So what we have done with Dash is just an ability to move gradually to an agreed format. And to the extent that it's going to be adopted, it might take some time, but it's at the same time, it's a production format which can be used, and now together with a new codec, it might be another ability to migrate. So we see that the standards obviously have a lot of opportunities to enable services on our integrated platforms.
But I think it's good that you mentioned ABR is the technology and the rest are the formats. I believe that's sold to the community quite often in a different way, that you have different technologies basically doing the same but using different formats. And with Dash trying to harmonize the formats, satisfy the majority of the use cases and the requirements of the people out there in the market who want to use adaptive bitrate. But what is missing? I mean, is there something missing in the Dash specification that would enable this high quality video consumption? Is it something? Should there be something done inside MPEG, or what, from an MPEG perspective? Since most of the people, at least three here on the panel, are actively involved in MPEG standardization. The other two are closely following or know what's going on. And what is the expectation from an inside MPEG view to the outside world that should bring up more adoption of these kind of tools and then enable in the end customers to use it in their environment, in their ecosystem, and whatsoever? Not sure who want to take first.
Maybe I take this because you asked me about the specification before. So actually, this is something where from a pure writing a specification point of view, it's a very boring job to combine Dash and HEVC. So it's basically no job for standards people. There's very little things to be done, and it was purposely done like this, that we basically reused a lot of aspects which were available from the AVC technology for HEVC. So we have the complete same framework. If you look into Dash, there's basically 0 changes. So that's a specification point of view initially. The issue is obviously that this needs to be moved into prioritization. So there's still a lot of issues then to have a written standard to go into interoperability in getting all the testing in place and so on and so on. So that's not necessarily a specification missing aspect in terms of written pieces. That's done, and that was pretty boring. It's much more the issue of making sure that we create this interoperability here on this level, and that's where then the relevant aspects will have to happen. And whether this is an MPEG task or not, this is something which needs to be decided. I think it's partially MPEG, but then there is also outside organizations which will take on this duty. We have the IMTC doing work in this area. We have the industry forum started work in this area. So the issue is really more moving into the deployment and supporting the deployments rather than specification work.
Talking about the industry forum, I mean, Bram, you were hosting the last industry forum meeting, which was back in April in Geneva at the EBU. So what is your view taking from this kind of meeting for the people here?
Well, like Thomas said, the real work is, I think, done afterwards. No offense. When you are going to look at how within industry together on how exactly you're going to use the standard. And that is the work which is done there. Those are the discussions which are held there. Who can make the best example files? How does it exactly work? What kind of use cases can we develop? And those discussions are core. And then it's also interesting to bring in outside perspective, for example, from broadcasters to see what they want to do with the standard and where there are questions, arise questions and not. There are even things we cannot solve yet, like subtitling is still, in standardization terms, quite a mess. So we have to conform to the best option, which is not the ideal option. But you all have to think the same and to accept a common ground before it can be used in different devices and you can build services on it.
Okay.
Question?
Yes, please,
So,
sure.
Jill might have an idea about this as well, but when a customer comes to us and says, you know, okay, we want to deploy a streaming platform for on-demand or live content, of course there are a lot of pieces to, to combine from different vendors. So it's not just encoding, it's not just packaging, it's not just the transport, it's not just the clients. There is also analytics part. It's also, how do you deal with a variety of different platforms that you need to serve, like Apple platform, Microsoft platform, Android platform, right? So all those things are actually creating a lot of headache for a service provider, and I think that's the biggest obstacle right now in front of our customers, potential customers like yourselves, when it becomes to try to deploy a large streaming platform. So mpeg unfortunately cannot address this question. mpeg did a good job in terms of specifying how the manifest file should look like, how the media segments should look like, and how they should be produced, bits on the wire. But actually, when it comes to encoding or packaging, it's an art. It's still, that's an art we are still exploring, and we are still trying to optimize to get a better performance out of a system. So mpeg, for example, says, these are your segment directions, or this is how you need to specify the manifest file. But actually, nobody really knows how to choose the specific bit rates, resolutions, and segment durations, different codec profiles, all those things to enable really a seamless, a nice experience on the client side. And it's not just one client side that you are dealing with. As I said, there are a variety of different platforms that you need to optimize for. And when you have lots of content, lots of different representations for the same content, and now on top of that there will be HEVC, not just AVC anymore. So actually, in the first time of deployment, there will be a lot of fragmentation in the market, in my opinion. So a service provider will have to take a lot of content and will need to produce a lot of representations, and then they will have to transport all those different representations to different clients. And that will actually increase the OPEX as well as CAPEX initially, before you can actually start seeing some profit out of your streaming platform. So I think that's really discouraging the customers from switching to Dash or HEVC. Nobody wants to be the first one, but eventually, as people see more and more wider deployment, I guess things will get easier.
One point I would like to underline here in this context is that you said mpeg did a good job, and I think this is important to have this open standard as the basement of all this work. Otherwise, I think it's not possible to have a somehow standard in the internet somewhere lying on whatever server and updated every day. So I think it's really important to have a standard process which is used here, right? Yeah. Otherwise, it's not possible.
So it influences also other standardizations, activities like in DVB, and it influences, it can be used further than only within mpeg. Yeah.
Before taking the questions here, I'm pretty sure Shil has an opinion on that, what Ali mentioned.
Well, I tend to share Ali's point, but also on top of that, one limitation we see is also on regarding the quality of experience offered to the user. Dash has the promise to offer the user the best quality as possible, depending on the bandwidth conditions. But it might have the consequence that the quality of experience might vary from very good to very bad, and then very good and very bad in time, which might be frustrating for the user if maybe, let's say, 2 or 3 clients share the same service under the same cell in a mobile network area. The 3 of us might just have very varying quality, and given some metrics which could be shared from the network, they could realize that having a lower quality but a constant quality would provide a better quality of experience for each of the user. So that's, to my point of view, a miss, which is the ability from the network operator to provide metrics to the user to make the good decisions.
Yeah, I mean, quality of experience we have now heard the second time. Bram mentioned it in the beginning, and clearly, I mean, metrics are needed for that, and that's probably also one of the next steps people should look into. But we have a first question here.
It's a question about mpeg, but it's not technical. So yesterday, Jan also said there was ambiguity over royalties and intellectual property in Dash. So could you talk to that subject?
So the question is now about the royalties, about Dash, and probably elsewhere within mpeg, and probably that goes to our main editor of the Dash standard, because he should be quite familiar with this kind of process.
So it's very hard to say something in public about these things without being. But the simple thing is, as Qualcomm, we made a clear declaration. And there is no indication anywhere at this point I'm aware of that there is any licensing fees attached to Dash, which doesn't mean that it's not the case, but I don't see that there is extra royalties being added for deploying Dash. There had been public announcements, which you can see, but there is, I don't think that there's more information to be said now. So I can point you to some specific pointers where there is some information. That's basically the case. But I'm not aware of anything that there is extra licensing for royalty fees.
But another company representative is sitting here where the company has made an announcement. So Ali, maybe you can say something on that.
Yeah, so I think Cisco made an announcement, Qualcomm made an announcement, Netflix makes public statements. Microsoft made public statements, and so these were the key contributors to the standard. And since then, there had been no further indication. But as said, so I am not here to give any more guarantees or anything like this. This is not.
I think those statements are available on the Dash Industry Forum website.
Yeah.
I think there were some links.
From an mpeg and mpeg standardization point of view, so mpeg usually does not deal with this kind of issue. So mpeg may decide to standardize or to create a standard under some given licensing terms, but that does not prevent others to do something else. So there are different types of licensing terms within ISO under which assumption a standard is created, and you might have seen, for example, there is now kind of hype ongoing for web video coding or internet video coding, which should come up with no royalty fees and so on, but that's a different story. Okay, any other further questions you might have to the panelists? Just let me know. Yeah, there is one over
Similar
there.
to what he was asking about Dash, intellectual licensing, what about HEVC?
I think the definition is in progress, but there's officially nothing at the moment.
I mean, you all know mpeg-LA, right? So maybe they come up with something, but the people here on the panel know probably much more.
Well, I guess you can expect that it won't be free, so.
So don't you see that as a bigger barrier than the barriers you were mentioning, that nobody knows what it costs to deploy?
Well, I mean, the gains achieved by HEVC, I mean, they seem to be quite high, and I think people will be ready to pay for it. I mean, in the long term, it will save you, it will likely save you a lot more than the licensing fee, so it will be more profitable to pay. That's my personal opinion, by the way.
Yes.
What is the CPU usage cost on the decode side for the HEVC? How much more CPU usage will a device have to use to decode?
Very good point. So we are also working on software implementations of HEVC, decoder, encoder. We are working on that. So on our decoders, I have a tablet computer with the smallest Intel i5 low voltage version, equipped with 2 cores, and the system consumption for 1080p HD decoding is around 10 to 15% maximum. So compared to H.264, maybe 1.5 times, something like this. And I think if you have hardware, in the end, you will not really have a difference in terms of power consumption or something like this. It will be the same. For the decoder, encoder is different. Right?
You want to take any further questions? Yes, please, sure.
It's more of a technical understanding. So what do you think the industry is going to do with HTML to support that?
So the question was now on HTML and to support Dash. Not sure who wants.
So you're referring to HTML5 media source extensions integration. I think there are 2 tracks here. So there's like in the industry forum, for example, we are developing, so we need to separate. There's a Dash issue, there's an HEVC issue, there's a coding issue. So first, in the industry forum, we are developing a Dash reference player, which is fully integrated into the media source extension. So it's fully relying on the native support of the media source extension in the browser. So it's basically showing that Dash is not a format which needs to eventually be delivered all the way to the end as is. So it's more production format, but then you can also reach browsers. So we have a JavaScript-based player engine, which is showing you Dash content in the player. So it's an open source. You can download it, look into this. It's great. So you can access Dash content. We have some test content available. Christian has also a site on this, I think. So that's one way. The other one is the native integration of Dash players into the browser. That's actually also happening, but it's probably something which is more like a longer track, but we see that also there are efforts into both directions. The second one, obviously, or that the browser basically provides some native interfaces into the platform, and then it does a native client operations. So the second one has advantages, especially if you're going to mobile, because you have deeper access into the low environment, less power consumption, and so on. So there are 2 tracks: the fast track using the media source extension, and the one which does the integration. For the first one with the media source extension, obviously you need to rely on native codec support. And I think there's a long way that HEVC is going to be integrated into browser. That's just a speculation for different reasons, right?
Yeah, and then in fact, if you go to YouTube, for example, and you enable the HTML5 features there, some of these sites they already exploit these media source extensions, which are implemented in a Chrome browser, and you might simply enable the debugging mode, and you might find some Dash things going on there. So it's already there. It's already kind of deployed in some sites. But with the browsers, I mean, you have a similar problems than with other platforms. I mean, all the other manufacturers, they need to comply with that or need to use that. Okay, I think we need probably come to do an end slowly, probably have some kind of final statement by all the panelists. From my point of view, I simply want to highlight one thing that has been mentioned quite a lot, is the role of open standards. I mean, it's a good thing, so everyone can come and join and participate and may influence the standard. So it's not a single controller. There are, especially for Dash and HEVC, if there is a problem, ISO will fix it. And of course, there is a membership required, which is organized by country, as you probably know. But in any case, I mean, for Dash and even for HEVC, we have public mailing lists. So everyone from outside can join this public mailing list and can participate in the discussions, for sure. And if you find something that is broken, I mean, people are there. And these mailing lists, specifically Dash and also HEVC, I mean, there are hundreds of people, different companies involved, and if there is a message coming in asking some specific features or some issues with the specification, there is a way how to fix it. And there are some rules. And most importantly, there is no single controller on the technology itself or on the format specification. So it's an organization behind that has some simple rules to follow. It's sometimes kind of boring writing these specifications, as Thomas said, my professor from the university always said, if you have sleeping problems, you may read the spec, which you can do. But now I guess we can just start from the beginning, Brian, with some closing statement.
So with this HEVC, as I said in the beginning, it's the higher quality, the lower bitrate. Combined with Dash, it opens new possibilities also for new features in displaying video, and I think that's still a bit not used enough. For example, combining it with time shifting functionalities, which would really enhance also the interaction of the audience with video content. That's mine.
Okay. Oh. Right. I would like to underline one thing about the network load associated to Dash, because one major issue related to HTTP streaming is that it's unicast, and it requires a huge amount of bandwidth when considering live services. So Dash has to be considered with a CDN approach or a multicast to unicast approach. So there is also network consideration. And the other thing is the fact that Dash doesn't specify the client behavior. So that can be an advantage, because the Dash implementation in the client can be tuned and fit with the service requirements. But on the other side, two Dash clients may provide different quality of experience while accessing the same service, and as a service provider, it's also an issue too. So if in the future there are guidelines on the client behavior, they will be highly welcomed.
So I really think that the combination of HEVC and Dash gives service providers as well as operators the chance to reach much more customers which they cannot reach today. So yeah, this is true for IPTV services, but as well as for online video rental. So you want to give services also to customers which may have only a 5 Mbit DSL connection, right? So at super high quality. So, and I think these two things, the delivery format Dash and the video coding standard HEVC, are the right tools to do so.
So Christian said that there was one advantage of having multiple contributors to the open standard. Yes, I agree, but there's also a big disadvantage, which is, unfortunately, in my opinion, we also had to put a lot of junk into the Dash specification just to please everybody. So I mean, the initial version of the standard comes with 5 different profiles, as far as I remember. And unfortunately, there won't be any single operator or any vendor that will implement all those things. It's just too broad. And for interoperability reasons, people have to limit some choices and make some selections, and then everybody can follow those rules. Otherwise, we won't have any interoperability. That has been experienced before, and it will happen. It will likely happen the same thing to the Dash deployments as well. So we need interoperability specifications, which I hope Dash Industry Forum will be addressing this year. And hopefully some of the specific features of Dash will be more important than others, and people will start focusing on those things. And then the encoder, the packager, the server, as well as the client analytics, all those vendors can actually agree on something that will be creating a successful ecosystem for Dash deployments. Otherwise, the deployment is going to be really painful for everybody.
So first to answer Ali's, yes, we're doing the interoperability points, and everybody is invited to join. I think that's relevant. Generally, I want to say I think Dash and HEVC is something which should be perceived as the ability to provide high quality, and really, really high quality. I think that's where you're basically focusing. So it's gonna be something which basically enables quality which you are used to get from traditional distribution, from satellite broadcast distribution, you will get over the top. Today, so I remember I had a survey, that was like 2 years ago, and there were like 8 categories being asked on over the top versus traditional distribution. And in 7 categories, the people said with a large majority, I prefer internet TV over the top. There was just one issue which was still in the favor of traditional, that was quality. And I think Dash and HEVC is going to close this gap, because you have the ability to deliver HD, and whatever you define as HD, video with all the advantage you're getting along with this. You have on demand, you can operate your own schedule, you can access this on many devices. And it's going to be hard for the traditional broadcast distribution, if this is going to be established, to maintain and be ahead of the quality. I think there will be a new quality experience being defined by Dash plus HEVC. It will be faster than you will get over traditional distribution means. So I think that's the opportunity what you see here, and I think that should be used, and to create this unified production format, and then have the ability to get to this opportunity within much shorter cycles than you would need with traditional distribution modes.
I think that's a very good point to close, meaning that... Sure. Right.
Are you talking as a broadcast distributor or a producer?
Well, I think the end user doesn't really care how the content comes.
Oh, absolutely.
He wants to just see it. So, perhaps Dash is theoretically, not only theoretically, it's improving the situation, but at the same time, there are, in the end, it's the business who decides what comes, what works and what doesn't work. And there you see that traditional broadcasting is still the most efficient way to deliver high quality video. So I think it's more also in getting those experiences merged and just use the different distribution methods optimally where they're best in, and then combine it at an end user viewpoint. And that's something mpeg-dash is ideal for also, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we can close that now. I would like to thank the panelists for showing up here and presenting their statements. I would like to thank you for attending and for your questions. I'm sure probably you have still some questions you want to address to us privately. We're here for you, and let's thank our panelists. Thank you very much.